Hello everyone. My topic for this presentation is changing the way we think in order to achieve sustainable balance in a changing world. My presentation is based on developing a culture of new thinking approaches in order to achieve balance and sustain it. We should stop linear thinking and get rid of all the classical ways of thinking since we are living in a dynamic and rapidly changing world. So, I came up with 4 new different kinds of thinking approaches. These are creative thinking, sensitive thinking, resilient thinking, and design thinking. I think these thinking models could set forth an intellectual and an inspiring framework. I strongly believe that everything starts with a train of thoughts. So, let's start thinking creatively, sensitively, designedly, and resiliently. Let's start with sensitive thinking as we are talking about the topic of sustainability and how it needs a greater empathy and intuitiveness, a better common understanding, and respect for the rights of others and others themselves. Being sensitive also means being thoughtful and respectful towards the next generation, since we need to sustain the world for them as well. We have borrowed the world from the past generations so that we can keep it safe and clean for the upcoming ones. Our physical, mental, and emotional responses to our external world and our internal or intrapersonal stimuli should be sensitive enough as well. Sensitive thinking is necessary. However, creative thinking should also support sensitive thinking in a sustainable environment. To the extent that we have achieved this, we can finally call ourselves a sensitive thinker. For solving difficult and complicated problems like the environmental ones, we need to develop highly specific and organized synthesizing mechanisms. Creative thinking could simply be defined as a special kind of problem-solving behavior. It needs vision, inspiration, brainstorming, and creativity. Within the creative thinking framework, we generate ideas. Firstly, we pose questions. Second, we imagine possibilities. Third, we brainstorm solutions. After that, we elaborate details. Then, we chase alternatives. And finally, we defer judgments. When we talk about sustainable balance, we need to address the process of creative thinking as well, which consists from preparation, incubation, illumination, elaboration, and finally, implementation. Design thinking is the third way of thinking that I would like to underline. Linear thinking is not enough for both conceptualizing and solving the environmental problems. We as a collective are trying to solve problems like pollution, traffic, and drugs. In our society, these are considered as wicked problems. Because of this, we need to be a designer of the thoughts in this dynamic changing world. To achieve this, we could start by empathizing. If we think like the one who's facing the problem, it is easier for us to create sustainable solutions for these problems. In other words, we should be the tailor or the designer who is designing the dress to fit the problem. Next step is defining the problem based on the sufferer's point of view. Ideating solutions by taking into consideration of all possibilities is the third step within the design thinking process. Prototyping is the consecutive process where we create a rough solution to a problem. Testing is the following phase, which we test our solutions and try to prove our points. The last but not least step is assessing the initiated solutions with receiving and integrating feedback within the process of design thinking. Let me ask you a question. What have we needed since the pandemic started? Of course, we need resilience and develop it. So, I will end up with my last discourse, which is resilience thinking. When we talk about sustaining ecosystems and people in a changing world, we should analyze that how can environments and communities absorb disturbance and maintain and sustain the functions. It needs the critical transaction from lower resilience to the higher resilience. In order to achieve social and ecological resilience capacity changing in the world, we need to promote polycentric governance, encourage learning, and broaden participation and faster complex adaptive systems. We can only embrace the change by implementing these 4 types of thinking into procedure. We can only achieve this ability to maintain function even though we have stress, shock, disturbance, and threats by these four types of thinking procedures. We should reflect the ability of system to self-organize, self-heal, and resilience, build capacity for our way of thinking by initiating sensitive, creative, design, and resilience thinking.